It's Monday, it's 8 p.m, it's the Monday assessment.
Your people gather round your town when things are on the up or things are falling down. Celebrate the high times, stay passionate through the lows, find strength in the chaos, no matter which way it goes. It's not easy being blue. Heartbreak comes in many ways, the hardest times, the darkest days, but all these things get washed away with us, with us. The highs might not come every day, but memories do, and memories stay. Enjoy that moment anyway with us, with us, with us. It's not easy being blue. It's not easy being blue.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Her Game 2 edition of the Monday Assessment, brought to you by The View from the Medway Fancast. We are sponsored by Snodhurst Used Car Sales and Service Station and Wicked Creative, and we're in partnership with Sports Social Podcast Network and Her Game 2. It's 4 defeats in a row for Gareth Ainsworth's men, as Steve Evans brought his Bristol Rovers side to Priestfield. In a game that was pretty even in the first half, turned into a capitulation in the second. Is Gareth Ainsworth under pressure? We will discuss that and much more tonight. And tonight's panel is Chris, a late substitution. He thought he was going to get the night off, but he hasn't. X and D, how are we all doing?
Right.
All right. Yeah, all right, mate. Not bad, not bad.
Excellent. Before we start tonight, I'm
I
sure
can't hear you,
many
Dave.
Gills fans saw on social media the passing of Roger Triggs. We just wanted to do a quick shout out. He was very crucial in the writing of the Gills, the League Years book. Some of you may have that, but he was very crucial in that. And I know he was a good friend of Warren's. Warren's not on the show tonight, but I'm sure when Warren's next on, he'll be able to do Roger a lot more credit than I can. But we just wanted to send our love and best wishes to Roger's family in a tough time.
Yeah, just got a message from Dee. She can't hear anyone, so I'm just going to drop her out quickly and bring her back in, I guess.
No problem.
Let's try and...
And also, as we're waiting for Dee to come back, also like to thank Paige. She is was Her Game 2 representative. She did the voiceover at the start of the show and does an awful lot of good stuff for the club, and also to keep the Her Game 2 message going on social media and around the ground at Priestfield.
Yeah, definitely. Joys of being live. Right, okay.
Exactly.
Right, Dee, can you hear us?
Well, I can hear you anyway.
There you go. Can you hear David?
Can you hear me, Dee?
I can hear you now, Dave.
There we go.
Perfect. So as it is the Her Game 2 edition, before we move on to the disaster that was Saturday, we're speaking to the ladies on the panel tonight, as the show really is for them tonight. So I'll come to you, Bex, first. Just give a little bit of background on how you got into football, how you started coming to Gills, and the change that you've noticed around the ground and on social media with women coming to football, and how obviously the stereotypes that come with that.
Well, my earliest memories of watching football were watching it on TV with my dad and asking silly questions like, Dad, why is that man suddenly allowed to hold the ball? I thought they couldn't do that when they were taking a throw in. So my dad was very, very patient during my formative years teaching me about the game. Wasn't actually allowed to play when I was at school because that was during the era when women's football was not considered to be safe. So I grew up in a time where women's football was actually quite restricted, and that had an impact on how many women were watching the game as well. It's been really nice, actually. I think probably in the last 10 years, there's been a real shift with the rise in women's football, not only within the women's game, but in the men's game. There are a lot more women going to games than there used to be, which I think is brilliant. And I think it's one of those things where social media has been the good and the evil. There are still comments floating around X suggesting certain things that aren't very nice, but actually there's a lot more positive support for women in the game now. And I can't imagine being anywhere else. I started coming to Gills with my son because I wanted to be able to come and watch a home team, and I wouldn't be anywhere else now at the weekend, really.
Excellent. And Dee as well. Obviously, you do a lot for this channel, and obviously yourself and John are heavily involved with the Gills as well with sponsorship. If you go back at your memories of how you got into football and the things that you enjoy coming out with the family on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to be honest, I wasn't really into football till a few years ago. Wasn't something that was on TV an awful lot at home, although I've since found out my dad used to come to Gills a lot when he was a kid. He's got loads of programmes and stuff like that in the loft. But it wasn't really till the business started getting involved that we came along regularly. John had tried to take me to a few Spurs games before that. Obviously, Premier League's completely different to local. And I couldn't get into it when it was Premier League. You're too far removed from the action. You're too far removed from kind of what's going on. But I think as soon as we started coming to Gillingham, the family feel of the place kind of got to me. And the fact that it's right in front of you. It's right there. You can interact really easily with the other fans. You can interact with the players. And it just really feels like a proper kind of community spirit thing. I didn't think I'd like it as much as I did when we first got involved. I only came to a few of the games. The boys were coming a lot more, bringing the kids and stuff like that. But then I really just got into it, learnt the offside rule, which was great. And yeah, I know it now.
Have a feeling we'll be talking about that later.
Oh, joy. Yeah, well, we will do, won't we, after that ref? Yeah, no, just kind of got into it then. But again, a bit like Bex, I love coming now, love getting involved. Love seeing what's going on, who's coming in, who's going out, who's playing. And our kids have really enjoyed it as well. It's become a real family event for us every weekend, whereas before John and his brother would mostly be at work and we didn't have a huge amount kind of going on. Now it's kind of like every Saturday, let's see what's going on with the football. So, yeah, it's been a great experience.
And also, do you think, obviously, Shannon being involved with the club, having a female co-owner has helped Gillingham push forward with like the Her Game 2 message and female supporters, because they can see that women can do anything now. Obviously, the WSL's really kicking on. The Lionesses are doing a great job. And now women are involved in ownerships of football clubs as well.
Yeah, I think to a certain extent, she's very much the face more so than Brad. She's present a lot more. It was great last summer seeing her in the club shop on the day that the kits came out, running around, putting stock out. And she's very accessible, very much the face of the club. And I think she has helped formulate it into what it is now with a more family-friendly vibe. We're obviously in hospitality quite a bit, and she always makes a point of coming over and saying hello to everybody and being really warm and friendly. And I think having that as a figurehead of, you can aspire to be, I don't think there's ever been any female football managers, but what, in terms of like Premier League and stuff like that in the EFL, but what's to say there couldn't potentially be in the future, along with the ownerships. I don't know a huge amount about like past football. Wasn't Delia Smith football manager at one point? Was it Norwich?
She was famous for some comments she made at Norwich.
Where are you?
Come on, let's be having you.
But yeah, I think it's inspiring, and it's definitely a good sign going forwards.
Excellent. And now we will move on to the horror show. We will move on to the lineups. So the Gills lined up with Turner in goal. We had a back five of Ramal Hutton, Andy Smith, Sam Gale, Omar Beckles and Max Clark. And a midfield three of Harry Waldock, Armani Little and Bradley Dack, with Josh Andrews and Ronan Hale up front. So, as always, the time comes where the lineups are announced and Gills fans have to look to see who's been dropped, who's not been dropped, and try and work out a formation. It does seem that we have stuck to this formation for a while now. So, Chris, I'll come to you. Obviously, there was only one change to the lineup. Smith came in for Ogie. What did you make of that change when you saw the lineups come out? Because Ogie got man of the match in the previous game, and the next game he's out.
Yeah, it's a bit of a difficult one, mate. And I don't think that many of us know actually what to think at the moment when a lineup comes out. It's kind of put your hand in and pick out a lineup, really. I don't think Ogie should have been dropped. I'm a big advocate. I think Ogie should stay. But I just don't understand it. Like, we keep talking about our back line, which used to be our main strength. We're now talking about a back line that just leaks goals like anything. And for me, it continuously falls down to the fact that we don't keep with a consistent back three or back four, whatever you want to call it. You can only build, for me. I mean, I didn't play at a great level, but I played at an all right level. But for me, you always had your back line was always your consistent three, your consistent four, consistent five, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, we just keep changing it too much, mate. And the fact that Harry Waldock's, in the squad, I understand, a very good young player. But the fact that he's been, the last 3 games he's been a starter, is it testament to himself, or is it more, needs must kind of thing? I don't think I would have played him or given him that much exposure at such a young age. But the lineup for me, I mean, Josh Andrews as well. What has he really done in recent months? Not weeks, but recent months to warrant starting when you've got Seb Palmer holding on the bench, who's, our most, if you look at it in isolation, our most prolific goal scorer in the last 3 or 4 weeks. So, yeah, I just think that he's just mixing and matching until the end of the season, until we can actually, unfortunately, get rid of a lot of these players.
And Bex, I'll come to you on your thoughts on it. And also the short-lived, I think Chris just mentioned Seb Palmer Holden. Obviously, we had the short-lived trial of Hale and Palmer Holden up front, and pretty much while Josh Andrews was suspended, and I believe the game prior to that. So do you think it was just an experiment that hasn't worked and Gareth prefers a big man up front, or do you think it's something that potentially he'll return to again in the future?
I mean, Gareth preferring a big man up front is something that's been expressed by him for a long time. He's been very clear, not just at Gills, but at his previous clubs, that he likes big man up front. I was kind of surprised, I think, to see Andrews being back in, because Seb had been doing all right. And I've never understood, when you've got a player that's playing well, swapping them out and just chopping and changing, because like Chris says, that consistency is so important. Same thing at the back. I don't think Shad had done absolutely anything to deserve being dropped, which makes you wonder, is it just, we'll let everyone have a bit of game time, But at the end of the day, I want a team to be put out that's going to try and win a match, not just to see out the season, to rest a few players, to have a look at a few players. You want us to still be putting in some effort to keep the fans coming along. And I don't understand why we're dropping players as soon as they start playing well. I'm also a big fan of a back four compared to playing with the wing backs. I think we looked so exposed in the middle. There's just so many holes in the middle of that midfield, which there shouldn't be when we've got that extra pace out on the wings, but it's because they're not as pacey as they need to be. So yeah, it just feels like they're filling gaps. And I really think we're going to see something very, very different next season. And I hope we're going to start seeing some consistent lineups, but it just feels at the moment like a lineup of, we haven't got any other options.
And Dee, finally with you, your thoughts on the lineup?
A bit like Chris said, I was quite surprised that Shad was dropped from the back line. I thought he looked really strong with Beckles on Tuesday when we played Milton Keynes. When we played Brainfart, you know who I mean. Anyway,
You're fine.
This is what
It's
chemotherapy does to your brain, you see. But yes, anyway, I thought Tuesday he looked really strong. The pair of them together seemed to work really well. And as you say, got man of the match. I don't think it does anyone's confidence any good if they go from getting man of the match and having a really great game to being dropped from the next lineup. Similarly, I thought like Seb Palmer Holden has had a few really good games recently. When he, the two that he scored in, I thought we saw a bit of revived confidence in him coming forward. And I would have quite liked to have seen him start potentially over Josh. I just think him and Hale, they're similar kind of build. They're both quite nippy. The last few games that Seb's played, he's moved around, I think, a lot more. He's got a little bit more all over the pitch. It seemed to have been a little bit better at reading the game. So I would have quite liked to have seen him start. As for the midfield, it's a bit like what Beck said, really. Are we putting him in because, and Chris, are we putting him in because he needs to be in, or how does that fit? But saying that, I mean, I'll come to him later on, but I think he really held his own, considering the people he's got around him. I wasn't really surprised to see him in. I think a lack of options meant that it was kind of a shoo-in that he would be in. I was a little bit surprised to see Jake in goal. I kind of thought we might have reverted back to using Glenn a little bit more. But, as you say, this is a formation that we've kind of been using for a little while now. No major surprises in there for me.
Okay, and we will move on to the overview of the game.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I'll start. So for me, I thought the first half was quite an even contest. I thought we held our own. I thought in patches we looked a pretty decent side. I feel especially the Dack and Hale partnership, I think, looks very bright, and I think I'm, along with most Gills fans, want Bradley Dack here next year, and probably would just rather the club.
Right, Davis frozen.
Give him a 2-year contract to a 2-year time came, and then half time came, and that's when it just went a little bit wrong. I know I'm very critical of Gareth, and I'm critical that he gets out coached, and I don't see that our manager would have done what their manager did. No, I think the 4 subs at half time completely threw the Gills. And I know, again, it's another set piece, but 1 minute in, when 4 players are now on the pitch, and I bet the Gills probably didn't even know which players they were meant to pick up. And it's not an excuse for conceding the goal that we conceded. But I think it definitely threw them. And then for the rest of the game, I just think we were just completely outclassed. Really, for the rest of it, we just don't create anything. We never look like we're going to score something out of nothing. And again, it says we had 9 shots there. I can't even remember the 9 shots. It just felt very pedestrian. And then the incident that I'm sure we're all going to talk about at the end, the captain getting the red card. For me, I know he's come out and apologised, but for me, it's absolute drivel that he's come out with. The not knowing the difference between a whistle for a free kick and a throw-in compared to a full-time whistle, and saying he thought it was over. I'm not buying that. I think it was just petulance. I get that he's frustrated, but he's the captain of the football club, and now I believe, due to the amount of yellow cards, he's actually getting a 2-game ban and not a 1-game ban. And we've just been discussing at the start how short we are in that area. We've got a kid in midfield that's now going to have to keep playing, and unless we get someone back from injury, I presume Johnny Williams is going to be asked to do a job again, unless we can get Mackenzie, Coleman, Kumbene, Ewan Williams, someone back. Because again, we've got huge games coming up, and for me, I could be doing him a disservice, and he did think that. But for me, there's a big difference between a full-time whistle and a whistle for a throw-in. But again, I just think everything needs to improve, because like most Gills fans, we're getting to that point of the season now where we just want it over, and that's not what football's about. You're meant to go and enjoy it and not wish it away. And yeah, that's my rant. Bex, I'll come to you. Go
on, Bex, follow that up.
What were your thoughts on the game? Obviously, the penalty incident was controversial. I can kind of see both sides of that. I can see why it was given, and I can see why they're frustrated that it was given. What were your thoughts on that, and then obviously the rest of the game?
Okay, so with the pen, I think as soon as you put your hands up, right up over your head, and that ball hits your hand, you are going to be getting a penalty given against you. You know, the lawmakers in the game have been very clear about hands being out of a natural position, and there is no more out of natural position than this, even when you are jumping. I think it was unfortunate for him because obviously it's hit him on the back of his hand from behind. He doesn't know very much about it. I know Bristol Rovers were arguing that he'd been pushed in the back, that maybe there was a little push, but the same pushes you see all over the pitch that aren't given. So yeah, I don't really buy that excuse. And I just think if he keeps his hands down, he's absolutely fine. So you put your hands out, you get a pen, you can't really argue with it. I think actually Hale did well with the pen because the keeper went the right way, but Hale had put so much power on that shot and whacked it straight into the corner. The keeper didn't really have a chance of getting to it. So yeah, I think the pen definitely was a pen. I think it was a well-taken pen, and it really should have been the start of the game for us. It should have set us going and got everyone's tails up. What surprised me was it's the first time in a while, it feels like, that we've had our noses in front at home, but the crowd weren't necessarily up and jumping as much as I would have expected. And it almost felt like everyone was waiting for it to go wrong. And certainly towards the end of the first half, there was a little few moments where the fan base was sort of gasping. But I thought we'd been on top for most of the first half. It went horribly wrong second half. And I think you're right. It was a ballsy move to make 4 subs at half time, but it changed the shape of their game and we didn't adapt. And this is our problem. We don't adapt. We don't adapt quick enough when other managers make changes. And we're getting caught out again, just like we have been time and time again recently. And it's really frustrating. And I think one of the things that Bradley Dack said in his interview was, we need to do the basics right, and we're not doing that. And he absolutely hit the nail on the head. We're allowing week in and week out their teams to get free headers in the box. We're not closing down players early enough. You know, we're letting players run halfway down the pitch before deciding to put a tackle in. You can't be doing that. It's basic stuff. You know, we're not marking tight enough. And it's all these things that, I mean, I used to coach at grassroots level, and I'm talking 6 and 7-year-olds that are just learning how to kick a ball. They know to stay tight to the person they're marking. If a 5-year-old can do it, a professional footballer should be able to do it. You cannot be allowing someone to run off you as easily as we've been doing. And we're getting caught out time and time again. And the worst part is that I think other teams have twigged. Oh, we can just bend off them because they're not going to follow us. They're going to let us free. You know, their second goal, and this one I felt really strongly about, I think I screamed it at the pitch, play to the whistle. Because yes, it was a flick on. Yes, he was in an offside position, but as soon as it's come off our player, it's not likely he's going to be deemed offside unless we can prove that he was interfering with the view of the keeper. But we all stopped. Sam Gale didn't go chasing after his man, and it just left them completely free to have a shot. By all means, shout and say, you know, he's offside, but do your part first. Get the ball into Jake Turner's hands and then argue that he was offside. Because once the ball's in the back of the net, there is no guarantee it's going to be given. And it was those things that I just found so frustrating.
And Chris, Chris, I'll come to you. Obviously, yeah, your thoughts on the game, what your thoughts on the red card. And Gareth Ainsworth is at the moment talking very confidently that he'll be Gillingham manager next year. Should he be confident?
Yeah, I think he should, mate. I really do think he should, because, you know, the common denominator in the last 3 or 4 seasons has been the players. You know, for me, you know, I've banged this drum for so long, and I will keep banging it. And it's quite nice. And I guess I could smart a little bit with it now, because Gareth's saying it and Dacky's saying it, that a lot of these players are not good enough. It's really that simple. I'm not going to name names. I won't name names, but a lot of this squad as a collective are not good enough. And now that your manager's coming out and saying it, and your star players coming out and saying it, then, you know, cheers, Gareth. But then, you know, when, like, we're going back to Little, for example, right? Okay, yeah, he thought that the full-time whistle were gone. I'm not being funny, mate, but even at 39 years old, and I haven't played since I was 32, I know the difference between a whistle. So I don't necessarily buy into it. I'm not going to call him out on it because it could have been that. I can't say that for certain that it wasn't. It's different, isn't it, when you've got like 5,000 people screaming and shouting to hear the whistle, how you perceive it to be, I guess. But yeah, no, I think that we need to stick with Gareth. We need to. I know me and you differ on this, David, but I think we need to stick with him. We need to get to the summer. We need to have a whole team refresh. We need to get a lot of these players out of the door, regardless of whether they're under contract or out of contract, and then start again. I guess this is kind of what the 2-year plan should have meant in the first place. I think the difference is, though, we weren't told about what the 2-year plan actually is. We've never been told that. So we're all surmising as to what it could be. For me at the moment, the 2-year plan is get to the end of the season, 16 out of contract, get rid of most of them, and then get a whole new bunch in. I've already expressed my concern with that because, you're getting rid of all of these players. You're then trying to gel a new team together in the summer to then go into next season. But yeah, for me, mate, I'm at a loss. Like, we do this show every week. We do it on a Monday and we do it on a Wednesday if there's a Tuesday game for the last few weeks. And I'm just at a loss as to what it is. And I think Dacky, and we will get onto it, but Dacky kind of put it how it should have been put. Like he's been at this club for a long time. He's then left, of course, but he's then come back, and he's kind of hit the nail on the head when he did his post-match, because we're just not good enough. It's as simple as that. And we haven't been good enough for the last 3 or 4 seasons. Even before that, we haven't been good enough. Okay, when Evans was here, we 2 top 10 places, and then we lost 13 in a row. He then got sacked, and then Harris come in. But we've not been good enough since the Gallagher's have come in. Is that the players? Is that I'm not saying it's Joe Comper. I'm not going to go down that route because I don't think that he has too much to do with the actual footballing side of it. But is it Hess? Is it there's multiple people that you can blame. But for me, the main blame lays on the people that walk over that white line on a Saturday.
Dee, I'll come to you. What were your thoughts on the game? And I think for the 3rd or 4th home game in a row now, the players have been booed off at the end. Do you think that the players even care that they're getting booed? Do you think it even affects them?
I'll start with the booing. I think some of them it definitely affects, and then I think others maybe not so much. I struggle with it as a positive person and someone who doesn't like that kind of atmosphere generally. I don't personally boo. I would never boo. I couldn't chase a ball to save my life, so I'm in no position to sit there and judge other people for what they can and can't do. And I also think negative. I mean, yeah, you've got to express your frustration, fair enough, but negativity breeds negativity. It doesn't achieve anything. Is us standing there booing and this, that, and the other going to make them play better in the next game? Probably not. It is just a kind of venting of frustration. But I know some of the players that they do care. You can see it in their faces that some of them are quite passionate, and it does get through to them. The thing I struggle with at the moment is, as a few people have said in previous podcast episodes, it's a bit like you gearing up for a job interview. Maybe a few of these players have decided they're not going to be in Gillingham at Gillingham next season for whatever reason. They don't want to be here. They know their contract's not going to get renewed, or they suspect their contract's not going to get renewed. But irrespective of that, there's the 2 things of personal pride and wanting to do well. Everyone wants to do well at their job, whatever their job is. No one wants to do shit at their job and have people judge them for being shit at their job. And also, if they want to have a career in football, whether that's in this league, a lower league, whatever, they need to appear to be an attractive prospect. And that starts with effort and passion and determination, because whatever job you're in, that's what gets you far. But beyond skill to a certain extent, if you can prove that you're going to work bloody hard at it and you're going to give it your all, that sometimes is enough to kind of get a foot in the door. Obviously, to a certain extent here, you need to back that up with some skill. But temperament and personality is really important, I think, in the changing rooms. And if they're not showing that out on the pitch, then what are they showing, behind closed doors? Dacky touched on his interview with people need to take a look at themselves. Maybe attitudes are not quite where they need to be. That's kind of what he's suggesting. And I do think we see it in some of the players as they walk off the pitch. Maybe they're putting up their hardened front. A bit like Gareth says, he can take it. He's got a thick skin. He's used to hearing this, that, and the other. Maybe some of the players are doing that. But some of them do wear their hearts on their sleeves, and I think you can see that in their eyes and in their body language when they walk off the pitch. As for the game, it was just a game of two halves, wasn't it? Really.
I hate that word.
I know, but it really was a game of two halves. When we came out, we didn't come out the same way that we came out against Swindon, but we came out, I think, looking okay, quite physical again. I saw Hutton was a lot more physical, I think, in this game, particularly in the first half. Gailey getting half his tooth knocked out, love him. What obviously wasn't entirely his fault, but we were going in on everything. And a bit like Beck said, I kind of thought when we got the penalty, that might be a little bit of a confidence boost, a bit of a G up to, I was really hoping we'd get a second one in before half time, because I think that really would have raised the bar in terms of confidence levels. But I don't think anyone could have predicted they'd make the subs that they made at half time. I was slightly late coming back out, and I came back out and looked at the picture. I was like, what the hell's happened? Who's that guy with the ponytail? Got caught up on the fact they'd made so many subs. And I think that rattled our confidence. I think we didn't really know what to expect from them. And we fell apart, and we looked like we fell apart. We just kind of looked like we didn't really know what we were doing. I think in the first half, we played more with the ball on the ground, whereas in the second half, we were doing more hoofing it back up the field to Josh. And hoping he could do something with it. I've used this analogy on Twitter, so forgive me for saying it again, but I liken it to a bit like button mashing when you're playing a computer game and you don't know what you're doing. When my son tries to get me to play Street Fighter with him and I haven't got a clue what I'm doing, so I just mash all the buttons in the hope that something's going to work and my character's going to whack someone and I'm going to get some points. But then when it does happen and it's great, I can't replicate that again because I don't really know how I've made it happen. No, exactly. I don't really know how it's happened. And I kind of feel like a lot of games this season, and especially the second half of this one, we looked a bit like that. We were just kind of we weren't thinking as a collective. Everyone was kind of trying to do their own individual bit, and to me it felt like they couldn't wait to get rid of the ball quick enough. So as soon as they got on the ball, they were like, quick, pass it to someone. Rather than necessarily trying to weave it through. I mean, I think Armani and Dacky did a fairly decent job of kind of trying to get it through the midfield, but there was too much hoofball again up to Josh. And Josh was bringing balls down, not necessarily as quickly maybe as we would have liked to have seen, but then trying to actually do something with it. But I think the whole thing wasn't helped really by the fact that the ref was very whistle happy on Saturday. I felt it was really scrappy. It was really stop-start. Just as soon as a little bit of momentum happened, the whistle got blown and someone was offside and everything got brought back again. And I don't feel like we could get behind the ball and get any kind of real momentum going. Not that I could necessarily say we would or wouldn't achieve anything with it, but the stagnating kind of attitude and everything going on like that, I just felt like we couldn't really get anywhere. Nothing was happening. It felt like there wasn't more than 30 seconds without a whistle being blown and play being stopped and something happening. It was a really itty-bitty, scrappy kind of game for me. The goals, I don't even want to go there, to be fair. Yeah, I watched the back. The thing is, I haven't got really good eyesight at the moment either because I've got uveitis in one of my eyes, so my eyesight's not great. And the sun was like, as well, so I was like spent most of the game like this trying to see what was going on. And they went in so quick. And when I looked back at them on German Jill's replay, I was just like, they say why are they in so much free space in the box every time? There is always someone who is unmarked, someone that sneaks in. It does always feel a bit like, though, they've got many more players than us, and I know they haven't. But, their abilities...
Is that how they're doing it?
Do Do you know what I mean?
Great tip, Gareth, if you're watching.
No, but we get the ball, and then like all of a sudden, all their players are back. We're like, you literally blink and miss it. Their players seem to be so quick at moving to wherever they need to be, whereas we don't do that. So we're trying to attack up front, and all of a sudden, all their defence are literally right in front of us, or the other way around. It just feels like we can't get the right players in the right place quick enough. We're not moving quick enough. Yeah. Anyway, enough about that. I'll let you carry on.
Well done, Dee. I have to agree with most of that. All of it, to be fair. But David, sorry, mate, it's your show.
That's all right. Heard what we thought. Let's see what Phil thought.
Oh, Phil's thoughts, are we?
You may be able to see that behind me, the Bristol Rovers fans are celebrating their win. We have just lost 4 games in a row. We are shipping goals left, right and centre. We can't score. We only scored today from a penalty. We're not creating chances. We're not having shots. We're not getting in the box. We're not dominating. We are just rubbish. And I really hate saying that. All I can say is next week I better be better.
Yeah. see what I told you about it being a little bit short, but
Phil is not very happy. We will move on to the takeaways. So first topic, home form and form in general. So I'll start with you, Bex. This season, the Gills have won 6 home games in the league. We have only won 2 home games since Gareth has had his heart operation. What has happened to Fortress Priestfield?
I think we are in a vicious cycle at the moment because the fan base at home games is not like the fan base at away games. I've been to a lot of away games this season, and however well or bad in more cases than not it's been going, the fans are turning up and making a lot of noise and staying behind the team for as long as possible. At home games, right from the off, it's felt different. It hasn't felt like they've been fully behind the team, which, as Dee said, isn't necessarily going to make the players play better. There's been a lot of talk on social media about, well, if they want us to cheer, we should give them something to cheer. But that's the loop, isn't it? You know, they will play better if you cheer them, but you're not cheering them unless you play better. But someone's got to make that first change. And I think we've alluded to Dack's interview an awful lot today already, and we haven't even got onto it yet. But one of the things that he said that really hit home with me is the fans are right to be angry. The fans are right to boo, but we need them. And he's not wrong. He's not wrong. And I think that's been one of the big things is clubs used to come to Priestfield and know that, especially the Rainham end, were going to make a huge amount of noise and that it was going to be an intimidating place to come. And now, even when we're winning, we're sitting there going, oh, don't mess this up. Don't mess this up, which doesn't give you that much of an atmosphere. And I think that is having an impact on the players because I don't think they're feeling the support they should be getting. And at the same time, the fans' numbers are dropping because they're not seeing the performance they want to see. So for me, I think the vicious cycle is really, really affecting that home form. I think the lack of consistency is a big problem. You know, at home, it should be very reliable. We're on our turf. We know exactly what we want to do, but we're chopping and changing so much. Nobody knows what's going on. So it doesn't really surprise me that our form hasn't been brilliant, and I don't see it changing until next season.
And Chris, I don't know what the exact statistic it is for like average gates and then the percentage of that gate that travel to away games. But I can imagine with the Gills, we must be quite high in that table of percentage of supporters that we take to away games. I said we took 1,000 to Cambridge, and I'm sure come the Crawley game that they're going to probably sell that out again. So our Gills fans just glutton for punishment and will stick by this side in away games because, as you said, or as Beck said, home gates are dropping, but the support in away games doesn't seem to be. Why is that?
I don't know, mate. I think our average it was like 3 or 4 months ago, our average home gate was 6-8. That's now gone down, in my estimation, by about 1,500 maybe. So our average gate now for me is about around 5152 from what I've looked online. I'm a bit of a geek with things like that. But yeah, no, I just think that when we're away from home, I think it's a day out more than it is. So, yes, we support the team, but I think for me, it's more of a day out. You know, you go somewhere different, go in a pub that you've never been in, or you've been in a few times, rather than going to the Cricketers, the Factory, the Woodlands, the Southern Belle, you know, whatever. It's a bit more of a day out for the boys at the moment, and we have got the best fans. I mean, someone said the other day to me, well, not to me specifically, but they said on social media that our fans are morons. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. Like we travel to Barrow to watch a goal in the 103rd minute, right? It doesn't make us morons, right? We travel here, we travel there, we go everywhere for this team on a weekly basis. Not just me, everyone else. And calling them morons is just absolutely, for me, is ridiculous. And to be fair, the person who said it had a picture with Angela Rayner, so you know we can surmise what that kind of person is. Anyway, no more politics, guys. But yeah, no, for me, mate, our fans are amazing. We've been absolutely dog shit for the last 3 seasons, haven't we? Let's be honest. Kind of lends its hand to some of these players still being here that have got previous managers sacks, but I'm not going to name individuals because I don't think that's fair. I can't get my head around it anymore. We've been here, we've done it, we've got the T-shirt. You know, we had Nicky Southall come on the show on Wednesday. We had Paul Fisher come on the show on Wednesday. We had Bradley Dack sit there and turn around and tell us what needs to be done. 3 of them. And even now Gareth Ainsworth is coming out and calling a few, not individuals, but saying that we're not good enough. So I really think that in the summer, something fundamental needs to change, mate, because we can't do this next season. I mean, I posted a thing earlier about Bradley Dack, and I'm sure we'll get on to it in a minute. But, you know, what he said, he spoke so candidly. And that is what we need. Like, you've got these people saying it, you know, and you're like, well, why aren't we doing it then? Like, they're saying and they're doing, right? So I just don't get it, mate. But for the person that said that our fans are morons, yeah, okay, fair enough. You've got your opinion, but you're wrong. And yeah, so form-wise, I'm going to just go back to the majority of these players, mate. I'm sorry, but the majority of these players are not good enough. It's as simple as that for me. Sorry.
No problem. And D, obviously answer this as best you can. And obviously, if you don't want to answer, then we can skirt this one. But obviously, yourself and John are sponsors at the club. Do you think the season after season of poor form will eventually or could eventually end up costing off the field issues for the Gills? Or do you think sponsors will always sponsor the club that they love?
I think it's a difficult question because there are people who obviously, I mean, John and Jamie have supported the club since they were knee-high to a grasshopper. They used to come when they were kids, you know. So there are people who are, and sponsors who are loyal to the club and have been loyal to the club for a long time and will always want to try and get behind it. There are obviously people who are in it purely from a business perspective. And I guess it's finding the balance between the two. And also, yeah, the people who are in it because they want to get something out of it or need to get something out of it. You know, they need those higher numbers of attendances. They need people to be passionate about the club and get behind the club as well. So it's a bit of a grey area, but it's more the boys' side of the business. So I won't say too much about, you know, what I think will and won't happen. And I don't really know. I mean, you know, let's face it, Gareth's talking about this 2-year plan. I personally see it as more of a 3-year plan, and I've alluded to this a couple of times. I mean, I don't know. I'll hold my hands up and say I don't know massive amounts about football, but I know about people and I know about forming teams and partnerships. And I've seen some of the things and spoken at length to John, who's very knowledgeable about football, about what other clubs have done and the amount of time it's taken them to build a team and build a team that gets consistently better and then gets into a position where they can look at things like promotion. It's not going to happen overnight. And I've heard a lot of supporters saying about, oh, well, will we get promoted next season? Gareth's been very clear about coming out and saying that, that's not necessarily on the agenda for next season. He wants to put the club in a better position than it's in currently. Maybe that's top 10, maybe that's top 5. I don't really know. None of us are privy to insider information on this 2-year plan. But I think we have to look at it positively. We have to look at it long term. And I know from our perspective, we're looking at this as getting behind the club, getting behind the Gallinsons, getting behind Gareth Ainsworth and the whole team for a longer term period, because making those changes isn't something that's going to happen overnight. Building a team doesn't happen overnight. Forming relationships that prosper doesn't happen overnight. So I'm hoping that people will see some changes in the summer and start to kind of buy into this vision a little bit more. I think it's very easy to, you said about the fan base and the home form and kind of the atmosphere and stuff. And I think one of the main reasons that it's different when it's away to when it's home as well is it's very easy to just pop along the road on a Saturday and come and watch a football game if you've got nothing else going on, and then to sit there and criticise. But the fans that are generally going away, who's going to travel 200 and God knows how many miles it is to Barrow to go and boo? They're not, are they? It's just, it's not in your nature to do that. And I think sometimes on a Saturday afternoon when you've got nothing else to do and you think, oh, I'll go and watch football, and you've maybe had a bad week at work or at school or whatever, and it's very easy to come along and then let that affect your opinions and how you would necessarily behave. I wasn't around years ago, but my husband and his brother used to sit in the Rainham End, and they tell me it's very different now to kind of what it used to be like. And having heard like the Bristol Rovers fans, God, they were loud, weren't they? There weren't millions of them, but they were loud and proud, and they sung it. And I kind of wish, I sit in the Medway stand, but I kind of wish we were more like that. And I think that would make a difference overall to atmosphere, to positivity. You're going to try and perform well. If people are cheering your name, I did a 10K last year before I got poorly. People cheering your name makes you go faster. It does. It's just a thing that happens. It's a psychological effect. And I just think maybe if we could have more positivity in the ground, it might do something. It can't change things on a fundamental level, but at least it might make Priestfields feel like a happier and less toxic environment to be in for the rest of the season. That's my rose-tinted specs kind of talking.
We will move on to Bradley Dack's interview. And Chris, I come to you on this one first. So I think most fans were pleased, and it was refreshing to hear a player talk so honestly. But if you now put yourself in one of his teammates' position, do you think they will be thinking the same, or do you think they will be annoyed that he's silently calling them out?
Mate, I think you probably know what my answer is going to be here, but I think they need to man up and just take it. Like you're looking at a club legend essentially saying how it is. Like the team as a collective need to sit there and take heed of what he's saying. Sitting there saying we're not good enough and this, that, and the other. He knows what it takes. He's been in title winning or promotion winning teams within this football club, so he knows what it takes. Sitting there going, oh, I didn't like what Bradley said. I don't think any of them. I don't think any of them would do that. I really don't. If they've got anything about them, if they're professional football players, they should be taking what he said and using it either to get a contract here or get a contract anywhere else. I can't see that. if there are players that are doing that, then they're not going to be in the game very long, as Bradley alluded to as well, because didn't play at a great level, but if people were telling me what I was doing wrong, regardless of who it was, I would use that as a tool to get better. And I think that these players need to do that regardless of where they are next season. I don't care if you've played for a Premier League team and you're now playing in League Two. I don't care if you've come into the squad on a big contract. I don't care if you've come into the squad for a big fee. Right? You are a professional football player. It is that simple, right? If you can't do the basics right, if you can't sit there and take criticism from someone who has been at this club and has done it previously, then you don't deserve to be a professional football player, right? It's a gift. You are given a gift. You are a talented person that's been given a gift to be a professional football player. I would have loved to have been a professional football player, right? That was my aim. Okay, I wasn't good enough. But had I been, I would listen to every single person that's telling me what I should do, right? And bettering myself with that. So if they don't, then they don't. As Dacky said, they don't deserve to be a professional football player if they can't listen.
And Bex, obviously I've just asked Chris what the players would think. What do you think Gareth Ainsworth's reaction to, again, his star player calling out his teammates? And also, do you think now that the time has come, obviously we're going to get close to that time where season ticket things are going to get released soon. Do you think it's time that before that's done, the club just announced that they've given Bradley Dack a new contract now? Because it's going to take a miracle for someone not to beat him to Player of the Year. They probably have already engraved his name on the trophy now.
Yeah, but he's my Player of the Year for sure. He's been great this season. I think Gareth probably was quite happy to have Dack's support, because a lot of what Dack said mirrored Gareth the week before. And you can't disagree with anything he said in that interview. He was emotional. He was speaking as a leader. And for me, he'd be my choice for captain next season. He really, really would. And he says everything that I agree with. He's calling players out for the right reason. He's not saying they're not good enough. He's saying you need to have a look at yourself and see how to be better. You need to make sure that you have the passion and the drive and that you're here for the right reasons, or you won't be. That's not wrong. And I think from the way he was talking, I think he's been trying to impress on the dressing room what he thinks should change. And he's basing that on what has made him successful, what has made the club successful in teams that he's been in that have seen success. And that should be the success that the whole team wants, And in any walk of life, if you see someone that's good at something, your first response should be, well, how did they get so good at that? And how do I do that? And if you are not thinking that, if you're saying, oh, he's really good at that, but he said hurty words that made me feel sad, you do need to be taking a look at yourself. You do, because he was really emotional in that interview, really emotional and really passionate. And he spoke like a fan. He sounded like a fan. And I think that makes it a lot easier to get behind him. And I think as a fan base, we don't want excuses. We don't want reasons. We want honesty. We want players saying what Dack did and what Gareth said in his interviews. We all know that change is needed. And I think he's hoping that he will be here next season. I am definitely hoping he's here next season. And I think that announcing him having an extended contract would be the best way to get season ticket holders to renew.
And Dee, finally with you on this issue. Obviously, Dack's going through a lot in his personal life as well. And the celebrity wife that he has is obviously going through a tough time. Financially, he probably doesn't need to be here. So do you think other players should just not look at the footballer Bradley Dack, but actually look at the man that he is doing something that his body's probably telling him, you don't need to be doing this, but he's still out there week in, week out, putting in a shift where some of them who have got years left of a career are potentially just throwing it away, and they've got the perfect role model to look at and follow in Dacky?
He's just the consummate professional, isn't he? I say everything that's going on in his personal life. I mean, I saw pictures of him being papped outside Priestfields a few weeks ago and stuff like that. Doesn't let it show on the pitch at all. He turns up, he plays his football. He is professional from start to finish, minus the tiny little blip where he booted the ball. But, you know, everyone has their moments where they get frustrated. We'll talk about that with Armani later. You know, he is the consummate professional. And no, he probably doesn't need the money, you know. But he's made it quite clear, I think, multiple times now that Gillingham is where his heart is. You know, the interview alluded to the fact he would like a contract for next season. I've been quite vocal on X saying the first person they should re-sign next year is Bradley Dack, as far as I'm concerned. I keep seeing people writing rubbish about, oh, he's not got the legs. And, you know, he said, no, he hasn't necessarily got the legs. But compared to previous seasons, he's putting in a full shift on a lot of the games now. He's surrounded by people that, and he said this himself in the interview, that have got, you know, maybe a little bit extra pace and speed on him. And he's got the game oversight that nobody else in the team seems to have. The football brain, the kind of pulling bits together. It's almost like, you know, like in cartoons where the character has like the calculations going on in their head and they show it in the cartoon. But it feels a bit like that when you watch him play sometimes, because it's like he's pulling all the pieces and the thread together. But I think sometimes he puts pressure on himself to kind of be everywhere and do everything at once as well. And that's not a great thing for anyone to feel that level of pressure. But I mean, yeah, I've made no bones about it. I think he needs to be here next season. I think he needs to be part of the core squad, the core team. And I think it's testament to his character that, you know, he didn't necessarily need to stay this year. I've heard rumours that, you know, he isn't necessarily earning what he could earn elsewhere by being at Gillingham, but he's chosen to stay here because he wants to be part of this club. He obviously believes in Gareth's vision. You know, echoing his comments, I said to my husband, he sounds more like a coach, like almost in that interview in some respects than a player, because of the comments that he was echoing. He seems to really understand the fans. He seems to understand the game at every level. So from the management level, from a player level, and saying that, you know, players aren't necessarily doing what they should be doing or could be doing. And also from a fan perspective. And I think that's quite unique to be able to see it on all of those different levels as well. And I don't think some of the players necessarily have that. He's a natural leader. And I did say on X earlier, you know, I like Armani a lot, but I would also like to see Bradley captaining a bit more. I think he's a really good role model for the youngsters, professionally, personally, as a human being. When you speak to him, he's very well spoken, he's very articulate, he's very quiet and reserved in what he's saying, but there's power behind kind of what he says and his presence. He doesn't need to jump up and down and shout and scream and all the rest of it to get people to listen to him, because I think the quality in what he's saying and what he does just kind of exudes from him.
Yeah. Oh, that's a new word for the show. Exudes.
That's a big word.
I am a writer, you know.
I might have to have a sit down, or at least Google it.
And we move on to the final part of the takeaways, the constant changes. So, Bex, I'll start with you on this one. As we alluded to at the start when we did the lineups, at the moment it's almost lineup roulette. I think it's clear that Gareth doesn't know what his starting lineup should be, even when everyone's fit. And whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, that's another thing that's up for debate. But what are your thoughts on some of the rotations we're doing where players are actually dropped and then getting back in the team without actually doing anything to deserve to be back in the team?
Yeah, I mean, it is a bit baffling. And obviously we alluded to this earlier on. I think a lot of the changes that have been happening have been triggered by injuries. And it's something that the club does have to look at going forward, because we've got to get to the bottom of why all these injuries are happening. And if it is, as rumours are going around, that it's something to do with the training ground or something like that, they've got to get on top of that. Because if we want to be able to play a constant team with a smaller squad, which is what we're hearing they want to do, they've got to keep that team fit. And if they can't keep the team fit, they're going to have to keep making constant changes, whether they want to or not. I think if you have a good game, you've earned the right to play the next game. You have. And to say, well, you've had a brilliant game, you were man of the match, oh, but we're dropping you and putting someone else in, that's got to be a real kick in the teeth. It's not good for morale. It's not good for trying to build some kind of a foundation. And for me, next season, I would like to see, and I think this has been referred to before as like the spine of the team, but I would like to see a consistent, sort of pocket, especially in the back line. You've got to have the same players week in and week out. Teams like MK and Bromley have been doing that really well. And it shows they're looking a lot more solid because they are not chopping and changing every 5 minutes. So I think the club have to look at the reason why they're being changed so much, and they've got to look at how they stop it. Simple as that.
And Chris, I've got one for you. And this question isn't meant to sound rude. If it does, I apologise in advance. But at the moment, we're unfortunate that obviously the team is on a complete.
Oh, that's quite handy.
It's on a complete what?
There is frozen. Is he coming back? Doesn't mean to sound rude. I swear to God, I've not kicked him out of the studio.
I just want to know what he was going to ask you.
Does this mean Dave is now a frozen pitch?
Oh, it might be, yeah. Where's Michael Warren when you need him? Right, David, are you back?
Oh, I'm back. Did you get any of that?
No.
A constant something.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, excellent. So what I was trying to say was obviously at the moment we're rotating a lot of players, changing a lot of players, but the form of these players, again, isn't great. So when you've got a team low on confidence and you're being taken out for the team by someone that's potentially playing as well, if not worse, maybe a little bit better, what does that do for the players coming out and then back in?
Well, it's confusion, firstly. You're sitting there, you're thinking, well, hang on a minute, why is he getting a game when like, for example, Seb Palmer-Holden, he's now been taken out of the game when in the last few games he's been our top goal scorer. It's coming from a low bar, I appreciate that. But at the same time, you're sitting there thinking, well, hang on a minute, that's not going to help it's not going to help his confidence because he was there, the one scoring goals. And then with Ogie coming out, and I don't think he had a bad game on Tuesday. I think he was good. He wasn't my man of the match, but he was good. He's then being brought out of the team. And what has Andy Smith done to come back into the team? Like, and I'm not calling players out here. This is talking about performance. This isn't talking about individuals and their personal lives. This is talking about, Andy Smith has come back into the squad. What has he done to deserve that? Shad had, for me, deserved to be in the squad on Saturday because of his performance on Tuesday. I think that this is what we keep getting wrong, and this will fall on Gareth, unfortunately, because he is the manager. This will fall on Gareth, that he keeps doing it where, okay, injuries aside, guys, he keeps playing players and then taking them out. The only player that I think in recent memory that hasn't come out of the squad is Ronan Hale. But when you're paying 250 grand for a striker, he kind of has to be in the team. Everyone else, like, they'll have a decent game and then they're just like on the bench and then they're back in again. They're on the bench and then they're not even in the squad. Like, to be fair, going back to Shad, he didn't play since Christmas, and all of a sudden he was in the starting 11 a couple of weeks ago. And and you're like, but what? How? Like, how? What has he done to deserve that? Okay, he has had a man of the match performance, but what did he do to get back into that squad since Christmas? If anyone can tell me, then I'm happy to hear it. But he didn't deserve to come back into that squad when he hasn't played since Christmas. Johnny Williams comes back into the squad. Okay, I'll get injuries, but he hasn't played a lot. Like, we need to stop chopping and changing. Like, it's ridiculous. It's like put your hand in a bloody pot and pick out what the starting 11's going to be, because some of these players just they haven't been in or around the squad for a while, and they're just being chucked in, and then we're then if they're playing well, we say, yeah, fine. If they're playing badly, then they're getting absolute pelters again. And you can't sit there and say, oh, well, he's had a bad game, but he's not played since God knows when. Like, how can you differentiate that? And how can you sit there and I am so confused this season, more so than under Bonner, which takes a lot of beating. But I'm so confused this season when you see a lineup and you see a different back three or a different back four all of the time, and you see a different middle two. Like, that is your core of your team, going from like pretty much centre back through the spine of the team, midfield, and then striker. Right? For me, that's what I've always been brought up knowing, that you have a spine. And even when that spine is fit and fully ready to go, we're still changing it. So how can we actually build a team when from 1 week to the next, we don't know where anyone's going to be? Sorry.
That's all right. And Dee, finally with you, obviously we've got a few games left of the season. Do you see the rotation policy continuing? And do you also think towards the end we're going to start seeing the players that Gareth wants to keep appearing more, and some of the other players potentially be just phased out now?
I think to do anything well, you have to have consistency in any aspect of life. To get better at something, you have to do it consistently. I mean, again, I say chemo brain, so forgive me if I'm wrong, but when we had the unbeaten run, I felt like we were fairly consistent with the players that we were putting out week on week. We seemed to have a fairly consistent squad most weeks. There wasn't kind of just this random chopping and changing. And maybe that was because we were less unlucky with injuries and things like that. But I felt like things were much more predictable back then. We kind of knew who would be starting and who would be on the bench, and maybe who wouldn't feature in the squad. Whereas, as kind of Chris said, now it's a bit like chucking a load of darts and seeing which ones are gonna stick. I think there needs to be a core, let's say everyone's talked about it, this core consistent team. Because you're only going to get better if you play with the same people every week. If you play with different people every week who have different ideas, different strategies, strong teams are built around the same people being in that team all the time. I'm a contractor by nature of my business. So I actually am someone who jumps into teams and basically helps them out when they get too busy or whatever. And it's really hard to do that as a contractor. I have to spend so much time of my time understanding how it is that the team works, what it is that everyone does, their preferred methods of working. And I would imagine it's, in some respects, it's similar for them when they're not playing with the same people or playing in the same position each week. It's that constant little bit of adjustment. When I know there was a lot of talk about when Gareth was regularly playing people out of position, getting used to something new. You can't become better if you can't be consistent. I think the injuries crisis has been a massive ball ache and caused a lot of problems. I'm hoping, I've heard whispers of a few people potentially coming back for the last few games of the season. I don't know how true that is. I do think Gareth knows, at least he's got a vague idea, I think, of who he wants in his core team. And I think we will start to see that. I think we've already started to see that to a certain extent. And I think we will continue to see that, touch wood, bar injury crisis. But a bit like Chris said, bringing people in who haven't played for ages, dropping people suddenly when, that's a kick in the teeth when they've been playing really well. If I've been doing something really well and then I turn up at work on Monday and my boss says to me, actually, no, we don't need you today. You can go and bugger off and do something else. I'd be a bit like, what have I done wrong? And it's a massive confidence hit. And I've been maintaining for ages. I think confidence is a major issue, particularly among the younger players. I think it's very easy for confidence to drop, heads to drop if things don't go well. We need that consistency. And I think for our team next year, we need to be seeing the same faces week in, week out, if we can. Injuries aside, we need to be seeing the same 11 bar 1 or 2 week in, week out, so that they can just get really familiar with each other. They can build this strong team. They essentially become one brain You know, people need to not be playing for themselves and thinking, right, well, I'm doing my bit. Now he needs to do his bit. No, we all need to be one machine, essentially, as it were. And you can only do that if we've got the same people performing week in, week out.
There we go. Can't disagree with that at all. Oh,
Thanks. I got something right tonight then. That's good.
David's just messaging me saying his internet's terrible tonight. So we'll move on
He's
to
gone.
our man of the matches. And Bex, you have gone for Dacky. Your reasons
I
as
can't
to
hear
why.
you either, Chris, now.
I'll keep this really simple. I went for Dack because he is mustard. He is head and shoulders above everyone else at the moment. When he plays a pass, he is the one person on that pitch that is playing a long ball that is going exactly where he wants it, to the feet of the person it needs to get to. And he's not only doing that, but he's leading the team from the inside. And yeah, he's been fantastic. Long may it continue.
There we go. And D, I will go with you and your reasons as to why Harry.
I'm a bit of a sucker for a youngster, and I just think, you know, he's
There you are.
really bad.
Do you want to rephrase that, D?
Oh my god! Can we just pretend that comment?
That's brilliant.
I've got my students watching this.
My motherly instincts always come out when the youngsters come on the pitch, because there you go, he's similar age to my
doesn't make it
daughter,
any
and they've been thrown in. I know, I'm just going to go with it. He's been thrown in the deep end of all bloody deep ends, both in terms of the toxicity around the team at the moment and the lack of consistency. I think he's really held his own. We've seen interviews of him, he seems very professional, he seems very calm, like his head's screwed on. He's playing with people with a lot more experience than him. And I do just think he's holding his own. He's not made any massive clangers. I've seen a few more experienced players make some massive clangers. He seems to be trying to do everything that he can. He's going in hard from what I've seen, on most challenges. Not afraid to put himself out there. Not afraid to take a few risks as well. And as I say, I think he's doing really well for a young lad in the current climate, the current levels of crap that are being thrown at players left, right and centre at the moment. To be, what was he, 18, 19? Yeah. And to come in and hold his own against much more experienced, hardened players. Full hats off to Harry.
Fair enough. And David, I'll hand back over to you, mate, because I don't have a graphic for mine, but I'm going with Dacky as well. So I'll hand over to you, yours, and then the rest of the show, mate.
Sure. Yeah, I went for Dack as well. I don't think since my time supporting the Gills that I've ever seen a gap between.
Yeah, between. Okay.
Between Dack and everyone else, I think is where he was going with that.
It's all right. So, okay. Is he back? No, he's not back. So anyway, guys, we will move on to a look ahead, and we do play Crawley away next Saturday. They've lost, drawn, lost, and we've drawn, lost. So, D, I'll come to you and your hopes and aspirations for Saturday.
Obviously, I hope we're going to win. Not going to say anything otherwise. I don't know, really, is the honest answer. I just kind of feel like, again, with a lack of consistency, not knowing who's fit, who's not fit, who's going to play, who's not going to play. It's anyone's game. I kind of feel like it's literally anyone's game at the minute. And I think a lot of it will come down to atmosphere on the day, temperament on the day. I think the problem is when we concede early, heads go down, we then struggle to get back up for the rest of the game. And I just think if we can prevent conceding early, then we might be in for a fighting chance against it. But I've just seen so many games where we've literally conceded in like the first 10 minutes. When you're already on the back foot, it's really hard to get yourself motivated and get yourself going again. As I say, I'd love us to win. I'm not able to go. I will be glued to X for updates. But I do think it's anyone's game at this point in time.
Yeah, and Bex yourself. Oh, Sugar. Go on.
Jumping around. I actually think we're going to win this one for no other reason than it's hear me out. For no other reason than it's one of the few away games in recent times that I'm not going to, which means we're bound to score a bucket load of goals and I'm going to miss them all. So you're welcome, Gills fans, if that happens. Yeah, I mean, if we
it's a worthy sacrifice, Bex. It's a worthy
I know, right? I'm going to be cleaning my house. If we can't beat Crawley in their recent form, what are we doing? Do you know what I mean? It's, and the only thing I'm not sure about is obviously we had the news last night that their manager's gone.
There's also news just coming through that I've seen, like EFL gossip. I know, to take it with a pinch of salt because the source is probably ketchup and not an actual source. But Gillingham are rumoured to be interested in replacing Gareth Ainsworth with ex-Crawley manager Scott Lindsay.
Oh, come on.
It's probably a nothing, to be fair. And if it happened, I'd be devastated because I think you've got to give him a chance. But yeah, anyway, sorry, Bex. I just thought.
I think that was always going to be chucked out there. When they got rid of him, there was always going to be those rumours going around. And I mean, we've met him. He's a lovely guy. But there's one of two things is going on at Crawley right now. Either he's a terrible manager, which is why they're losing, in which case, why would we take him on as a manager when we keep losing anyway? Or the players aren't playing for him and the players are the problem, not the manager, which is the problem we have at the moment.
Yeah.
In which case, why would we then change the manager? There's nothing about that makes sense to replace Gareth anyway, let alone to replace him with a manager who's been managing Crawley in their current position. And I say that with a lot of respect for Scott Lindsay. I really like the bloke. And when I met him, he's, he knows his stuff. Yeah. But whether that then means that they get a new manager in before the weekend and they get new manager bounce, or whether it means that, it hits them the other way and it gives us an advantage, I don't know. Yeah. Personally, I'd say stick with Gareth, keep the faith with him. But for me, I think if there's a match for us to turn it around and go out there and get a win, it's surely got to be this one.
Yeah. Fair enough. There we go. So David's internet is totally gone, so I've had to take over this evening. It's a good job I was on, really, wasn't it?
Wasn't it just?
So obviously we are sponsors and partners. We are sponsored by Snodhurst Used Car Sales and Service Station and Wicked Creative, the being part of that. And we're in partnership with Her Game 2 and Sports Social Podcast Network. So before we go, ladies, I do apologise to anyone that's asked questions tonight, but I think we're going right over the time now. And with a few other issues, I've not been able to do the fan cast. So if you haven't yet, join us on The View from the Medway on Facebook. Follow us at The View from the Medway Fancast or at TVFTM on X, or The View from the Medway Fancast on YouTube. So before we go, any other business? And Dee, I'll go with you.
Absolutely not. Just please bloody win this weekend. That's all I ask. That's all I ask. That will just make my weekend. Thank you very much. And also there might be some keeper shirts still available in the club shop for anyone that wants an adult size keeper shirt. They had some in the club shop last week. I am modelling one now. They did have quite a few in stock. So if anyone wants an adult keeper shirt, grab one while they're hot. There we go. And whilst they're in stock, if anyone is okay in goal, you can also trial out for the team. Not me. I'm only 5'1". Bex, I'll go with you. And I wasn't expecting toast tonight, but I guess this kind of works. But yeah, your any other business? Sorry. Yeah, just a very quick one. Gillingham Football Club, get Bradley Dack's contract sorted out now, please. Yes, 100%. And I think I said it on X earlier, and I was just like, we've got the renewals coming up soon. I don't know when they are, but imagine if we had just gone like, oh, renew your ticket now because he's going to be here. Yeah. I think it will probably help the club. So anyway, guys, I think we're at the end. I appreciate everyone watching. Again, apologies that we couldn't do the fan zone, but technical issues. Anything else, ladies? No. Thank you very much.
I would just like to thank Paige yet again, our Her Game 2 ambassador. She's been great throughout. Obviously, we're in partnership. We probably will be next season as well. So if there's nothing else, I've been Chris. She's been Bex. She's been Dee. David was David, and now he's gone. So good night and up the field.
The view from the Medway.